Recorded. This is the Red Ticket Blues podcast. I am Brian Buckley. This is being recorded on April 18th. It hit the internets on April 19th. How's it going? Remember, you can always listen to this show and all the other shows on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, YouTube, and now Google Play. Wow. Thanks for joining the show. What took you so long? What were you doing? Oh, that's right. Taking over the world. That's right. That's what Google does. And you can follow me on Twitter at BrianBuck13 and at Red Ticket Blues. So how's everybody doing, huh? Spring has sprung, kind of, right? Temporarily. How's everything? How's the office, huh? Sally Shitpants, did she tell you she had a great weekend? Well, she lied. She didn't go anywhere or do anything. Yeah, she threw it in your face and said that, but... And that picture on her desk? It's not even a real person. She cut that out of Men's Health. Screw her and screw everyone else. So, how's everybody doing? So, we've got a lot to talk about today. A lot of NBA playoffs, NBA house cleaning all around, including Phil Jackson, who knows more than everyone, by the way. And you already knew that. You knew that, but did you know more than Phil knew? Great question. Thank you. I'm Phil Sims. I'm asking questions, and then I'm answering them. Little NFL news. The LA Rams have mortgaged their future in a very peculiar trade of draft picks. Did a little bit of baseball, and we'll get into some politicians not behaving badly, but just trying to act normal, and it never works out. But let's start with the NBA, and before we get into all the national... like I said, house cleaning, we will have to talk about the New York Knicks. Your New York Knicks that finished 32-50 last year, which was an improvement from the year before where they didn't even win 20 games. So, Phil Jackson, I'm burping. I'm drinking some, I didn't want to get a whole six-pack. I like to try to save the six-packs, and then I'll drink. Because if you've listened to this podcast in the past, I used to drink, like a nice beer. I'd say, I'll try this. And, this is pretty good. And, a nice craft beer. And now the problem is, I'll get a six-pack, and then that just last beer just sits there, and it just calls my name. Like, it's like a drug. It's like an addiction. It's called alcoholism. No. But, I mean, it just sits there, and I got to drink it. So right now I'm drinking a Tall Boy Sierra Nevada. Well, I mean, it's not terrible. It's okay. But that explains the burp, in case you were wondering, which you weren't. So Phil Jackson met the media in his exit interview to talk about the New York Knicks. And, Phil knows everything. Phil sticks to that triangle offense that no one can really explain. I've never heard one good explanation of the triangle offense. I'm sure if I sat down with maybe Derek Fisher, well, I'm not the right sex. If I sat down with somebody who had a full grasp of it, they could maybe relay it back to me and explain it. Perhaps. I don't even know. But he will not let go of the triangle offense. He's like a guy who they still enjoy the same newspaper, but they refuse to read it online. They got to have it in their hand. It's sort of like time is passing you by. Time is passing you by. Get with it. Adapt or die. So here's some of the highlights of the exit interview. And when asked about who is going to be coaching this team next year, will it be Kurt Rambis, the interim coach? So who's going to be manning this team?
Only people I probably know will be in the interview process.
That's right. Only people he knows, like the mailman, his butcher, attorney, people like that have a full grasp of the full ego of Phil Jackson. So they're the only ones under consideration. What kind of asinine fucking statement is that? I'm only interviewing people I know. Well, I mean, you can make that statement when your team is good. This team is not good. Your direction, your vision is not copacetic with winning at this point. Maybe you should be more open. Oh, triangle. Not open-minded. Forgot about that. And remember what I said about Phil being great? Well, he likes to remind you.
Do they have 11 championships to show you when they talk about that?
That's right. 11 championships. Yeah. For the all-time great players of all time. Oh, God. I hate when people do that. And listen, to the media, I'm sure in a position like that with Phil Jackson's in or anyone else, that could be extremely annoying all the time with the media second-guessing you, especially in a city like New York. But I hate that card. I hate that when you got a former athlete on the radio, Boomer Esiason on WFAN all the time saying, oh yeah, well, you didn't play the game. That's such a bullshit trump card. So it's like, why are we even going to have a conversation if you're going to pull that one out at the end? What is the point if you have that one in your back pocket when you lose an argument? So Francesa does the same thing if you ever criticize him. He says, what do you do for a living? There you go. Because it's ultimately going to end with Mike saying, I make more money than you. I've been more successful than you. Get lost. Lose the number. That sort of deal. Speaking of New York City and how that media can be tough on people.
You guys are making it really hard on us to get free agents. You don't have to do that. You can make this a good place to come to. It's a nice place.
Oh, that's right. So that's why the Knicks aren't flourishing, because of the big bad media that scares all the players away. Ooh, ah. No, they're armed with their pens and their papers. Pens and papers. Pens and typewriters and computers. Who the hell uses a typewriter? But how about that? Phil Jackson blaming his own ineptitude on the media, saying you can't get free agents here. I can't bring free agents here because of you. You're the problem. Talk about copping out. And here's what he said when asked about rookie Jerrion Grant from Notre Dame. What do you think about his progress?
But, when Steve said he deserved more time, he really didn't deserve more time. He really wasn't helping us win.
Now, here's one. I like Jerrion Grant. You know what? I didn't see a ton of him play. Him play a ton this year. He didn't play a ton. I loved him in college. I realize there's two different games. I get that. And Jerrion, in Phil's defense, he didn't play that well. He definitely needs to improve a lot. But when you're on a team that's 32-50, why isn't he playing more? He needs to play a lot more. So when you say something like, did he really earn to play more? I mean, certain games, he's playing 3 minutes. 3 minutes against the Washington Wizards, 3 minutes. Come on now. 10 minutes against the New... Again, 6 seconds. What happened in that game? Was he thrown out? 6 seconds in Detroit? Early February? 6 seconds. I think he deserves more than 6 seconds. A team that's that shitty. So, and now you got Phil Jackson and New York Daily News writer Frank Isola sort of, Frank's going at him, obviously. Phil is sort of answering back, but not acknowledging Isola. He won't give him the satisfaction. As Isola said that, Phil was sticking to his guns when he said he was going to only interview people he knew. So he contacted Luke Walton, the assistant coach for the Golden State Warriors, who, led them to that, I believe, 19-0 start, which, come on, I don't want to take anything away from Luke Walton, but I don't think you can give it all to Luke Walton. So let's just be honest here. Let's be fair. Supposedly he reached out to him, and Luke Walton said, nah, I have a brain in my head. I'm good. I don't need that shit in my life. And Isola heard it and rolled with it. And, Phil sent out some sort of tweet today that said, contrary to what the media is saying, no one has been contacted, blah, 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 blah. So the only people you've really heard to be rumored, you've heard, like Isola said, with Luke Walton, but you've also heard the aforementioned Kurt Rambis. Actually, I didn't mention him, so it wouldn't be aforementioned. The interim coach, Kurt Rambis, making him the full-time head coach, and the old Cleveland coach, David Blatt, who I don't think we really know how good or bad of a coach he is, because LeBron sort of made that decision. LeBron falling all over the place. I mean, it's an annual tradition in the NBA. The guy is a beast, but I mean, just watching the game the other day against the Pistons, he's just falling. Like, stop. You are built like a brick shithouse. There's no way, this small person is knocking you over. It doesn't work like that. But those are your New York Knicks, so who knows what can happen. What is there? I don't have it on me with their draft pick status. I don't know if they have a draft pick coming up. It's not coming up in June, but we'll have to see. Staying in, let's jump into this one thing here. The NBA just approved that players will be able to put advertisements. Well, not players. Teams will be able to advertise on their jerseys. And I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh God, really, really?" My question is, what took so long? I think it is a genius move. Okay, there is one sport that is more global than the NBA, and that is soccer. And they are all over those people's jerseys. Okay. At the same time, the NBA and soccer, those are the most visible team athletes you see all over the globe. You can't do it on football. No one knows the faces. Okay? And baseball, they have them all over the stadium. Basketball, you have a smaller court. The only real advertisements you see in there is scorer's table. So I think it's a great, great move by the NBA. I don't see what's wrong with it. This is something that I'm not always the biggest. Everyone wants to jump on the Adam Silver train as if he's some sort of, I don't want to use the word messiah. That's a bit strong. But messiah, no. He's so innovative and positive for the game, and there have been great things, but I think this is a wonderful thing. And people may disagree with me, but I don't care. You know what? And in the words of Francesa, go get your own show. The other thing going on in the NBA with Adam Silver, too, next year's game, All-Star game, is in Charlotte, where North Carolina passed a controversial BGT law regarding people of their correct birth using their own bathroom, and it's caused a lot of stir. And the NBA said, basically, we don't like this, and we're not going to have the game this year. And then all of a sudden they said, well, we're still disappointed, but we're going to have the game this year. Silver came out and said, I never said we were going to move this. So it's a big back and forth. I guess he enforced that he was very distressed. I understand that when you're a part of a big company, a big entity like the NBA is, you want to make a social stand, which Silver's been very proactive in. Except for the time there, Rajon Rondo completely belittled and berated a gay ref and got a huge 1-game suspension. But that's not relevant. Don't worry about that. And with the end of the regular season came Kobe Bryant ending his career. And what can you say? There's no other sport where you can totally manipulate a game on your last game to make you just seem like a god. And Kobe did that 50 shots later, 60 points for Kobe Bryant. It would have been great if he had no assists. I think he ended up having 4 assists. But you know what? The year he's had to go through with that team of just, I was going to say crumb bums, but I just said it. What he's had to go through with that team, give it to him. Now, all the other years of not passing the ball to people and, being a kind of borderline shitty teammate, well, he'll have to live with that. I'm sure he'll be fine with that. People are already putting him in the studios of ESPN, which I think he'd be a great commentator. Absolutely great commentator. The he's thoughtful, he's smart. We all know he's smart. He's well-spoken, all that shit. So, and he's very opinionated. He has no problem taking shots at his peers, even people on his own team, as we know. So, but we all want to put him in the booth already. Christ, let it breathe. Let it breathe. Like people want to put Peyton at ESPN already, which I guess is happening. There's a report here in Connecticut that he was looking for houses in West Hartford, which is only a few miles away from Bristol, the worldwide leader's home. So, anyways, let's get into a little playoff real quick. I mean, it's just started, so I don't want to put too much emphasis on what's going on, but I did want to focus on, I liked, you heard me talk a few podcasts ago about the Charlotte Hornets and how I liked the team. I liked the chemistry they had. I liked what they were doing. They did not even look like an NBA team yesterday. 123-91 against the Miami Heat. And the reason I bring this game up is because I have no problem saying how wrong I am. But the main thing I wanted to bring up, Dwayne Wade, a guy who I have, if you listen to the podcast, I have no problem throwing shade at. Did I say that right? Attention, shade has been thrown. But not a lot of love for, right? Because I'm hip.
The East Coast ain't got no love for Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, there you go. See, I'm referencing the Source Awards from 25 years ago. I'm totally with it, man. Come on. Now let's play that Beat Nuts joint. Yeah. That's all the kids are listening to. No, but yesterday, Dwayne Wade, who, again, there's been a lot of, I don't like his posturing, his pissiness. He's always whining something. He's on a quest to, be a casting for the Count of Monte Cristo. The way he dresses, forget it. Anyways, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists yesterday on 50% shooting. 1 turnover. Okay. Now, why is it that Dwayne Wade gets shit for sitting out so many games during the season? Can he stay healthy? He misses so many games. And how about this? Dwayne Wade's resting himself. He knows that he's resting himself for the playoffs. But Greg Popovich and the Spurs are geniuses because they rest their players. But Wade gets credit. And hey, again, if you've listened to this podcast, I'm switching roles here. The roles are reversed. I am not someone that usually sticks up for Dwayne Wade and his tight shirts and midriff showing, all of that, and his posturing. It's just staring at that person in the crowd that doesn't exist, that sneer. I think he should get more credit. That's all I have to say about that. So, the NBA playoffs so far, outside of a few games, they've all been blowouts. Really haven't been a lot of close games. Boston lost by 1. The Cleveland, LA beat Portland by 20. I didn't stay up for that game. San Antonio killed Memphis. And we had Cleveland won by 5 over Detroit. And that was a game that was close. Very, very close. Very close. I mean, Detroit was winning a lot of that game. And you get towards the end, obviously, some questionable calls, you know that goes, superstar calls. But for as much as I make fun of LeBron, he is a guy that he can take over the game anytime he wants. I really believe the only thing holding him back from scoring 100 points a game is if he's tired. He's one of those guys that I think could score every single time if he really wanted. Now, of course, he'd be exhausted by the end of it. LeBron's a weird guy. He really is. He's just strange. He's almost like that A-Rod before, like, the rebirth. He's doing this weird social media stuff. And Bill Simmons just mentioned this today. I was thinking about it. How about this? The GOP Cleveland convention. The GOP convention is in Cleveland this year. And let's say LeBron, like, opted out. Because there's been rumors that we all know the cryptic... the cryptic tweets, the unfollowing on Twitter or Instagram of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and talking about forming this super team. He's just strange like that. Maybe he needs to go the A-Rod route and, just be like, it gets so strange on social media that you almost look like a eunuch, and then people just love you. Like, he could just take weird shots of him at the gym and, eating dinner with teammates, but not trying to look cool and just trying to look just ultra cornballish. Maybe LeBron's too young for that. Maybe if he sticks around, he'll get to that point. But LeBron's a strange guy. He is, but he's amazing. He's amazing. Let's see. Yeah, Curry may not play tonight. Well, I don't know why I'm saying this. By the time you listen to this, that game will already be over. So let's move on here. What I wanted to get into is a quick little NFL. You got the Rams made that enormous, I don't have the complete logistics of it, but we all know what they gave up. And the quarterback that they're looking at, Wentz, this is a guy from North Dakota State. And I realize they're trying to make a huge splash in Los Angeles. That's what you got to do. You got to do that anywhere. Forget it just being Los Angeles, but you have a new franchise and a new place. You need something big. Now, they're mortgaging their future here. They're taking a guy that's never really played in any big conference. He hasn't, not never. He hasn't played in any big conference or any big game of any meaning. Now you're going to throw him to LA. You're going to throw him into the spotlight of this city. You're going to throw him into the inaugural year. Well, it's hard to say inaugural year when they already played there, but the re-inaugural year of the Rams and say, oh, by the way, rookie in LA, lead us to victory. Could be a very bad move. I realize you can't go in there with a shitty product. And even if he is really shitty, that first year, it'll be all gravy. Everyone will love it. Oh, the Rams are back. Yes. Okay, the quarterback, he needs some time. Don't worry about it. Just he's going to be good. You'll see. You'll see all the talking heads. You'll see. I like what then after a year or so, then it starts to go, wow, the Rams really, screwed up here. This is some serious shit they just did. So that will be very interesting because it's one of those things you really don't know right now. Now, and we don't even know if they're going to take Wentz, but that is the proverbial thought, it seems like, from all the pundits. So something to go forward as we get closer to the NFL draft. Not a franchise player in the draft, so kind of a rough move for the Rams. For them, it's very unlucky. If it was some different year where there is a franchise can't-miss player, then the deal would make a ton of sense. It's a very, very risky move at this point. So locally here, we have the Jets are still quarterbackless. Ryan Fitzpatrick is still in the wings. Everyone else is already cleaned up. We got our quarterbacks bringing up the rear, the goddamn Jets. And Ryan Fitzpatrick, no one really seems to be interested in him. Jets really don't seem to be interested in anyone else. Seems like a big stalemate, and they're just going to stare at each other for a while. Seems like an 8th grade dance. Like they're all on one side of the one side of the gym. They're just looking at each other, just going, "Come on, just dance already. Come on, dance." You got Colin Kaepernick out there too, and I've never been a huge Colin Kaepernick fan. If he came to New York, he would do one of two things. He would flourish. Because he loves to be seen. And I know media doesn't matter the same way it used to, and everyone always brings up the number one person they always bring up because of the internet and everything. You don't need to be in a big city market, and that's Kevin Durant in Oklahoma City. That was pretty. I didn't even pause there. That was pretty good there. But you don't even need to be there. But I think Kaepernick, he'd either excel in New York or he would crash and burn. It would be a dumpster fire of all dumpster fires because he looks very sensitive too. So the first time, Brian Costello or Manish Mehta get their unnamed sources, saying Cap's about Cap, then that could get very, very ugly. And the other thing I wanted to talk about is, he's a person that I've always said I don't want to hear anything about him, and I'm a walking contradiction by bringing him up every once in a while, and that's Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel is, it's not even like funny anymore. It's kind of, the guy can't even keep an agent now. And they're giving, Drew Rosenhaus is giving him an ultimatum and what to do with your entire career. And what do you see? You see pictures of him at Coachella, which I can't imagine the layers and levels of douchebaggery at Coachella. It just seems like, because it's a music festival and it's got to have so many cliques of just assholery. It has to be. You got the celebrities that want to be normal, which you're never going to be normal. I'm sorry. In this day and age, you're not going to be normal. You have your trans people just probably doing whatever. You got the drug dealers, and everyone's just trying. Look at me like ripping all of this in a place I completely know nothing about. Coachella could be an amazing place. I don't know. It just seems like a terrible place that I want nothing to do with. Fast forward 2 years from now when I win the lottery and I'm talking about how great Coachella is and how much losers are the ones that do podcast. They're losers. But Manziel, the pictures from Coachella of him, man, he's lost a considerable amount of weight. And he's got that look in his face, and I've seen it before in people when it's like, I was having a really good time, and you've got that burnt out shot look that it's like, yeah, now it's a problem. It's starting to hit me. He's got those like 13-year-old girl arms. Now, obviously that's a slight exaggeration, but the amount of weight a professional athlete, a starting NFL quarterback has lost is indescribable. It's pretty shocking. Guy, I don't want to sit here and contemplate what he's doing, what he's abusing, because I think that's insanely irresponsible. But let's just put it this way: it seems like the media responsibly has said, he's got partying issues, and they show when he's drinking. I think there's more to drinking when you see pictures like that, because I've seen them people, and it's not pretty. So that's it with football right now. Not a ton of other news. Well, Jesus, what's his name? From Will? Oh, I talked about that. Yeah, Will Smith shot and killed. That's terrible. Is there anything else really going on in the NFL? There probably is. There's something I'm probably missing, but we're going to move on to baseball real quick. And I hate to be a dead horse. I don't want to be a dead horse because I don't want to get fucking beat. But beating a dead horse here, and that is Pablo Sandoval. And Sandoval is now on the DL with a mystery shoulder strain. It's so inflamed, Dr. James Andrews can't even take a look at it. So the plot thickens there. But the biggest news about Pablo Sandoval this week was the fact that I just lost my train of thought there for a second. The fact was that during his days with the San Francisco Giants, he needed a little chauffeur. He needed a chaperone, to make sure he did not order food in hotels because he's so fat. Talk about, and in this country, we seem to really take a lot of seriousness when it comes to people, they're starving themselves, they're binging and purging, there's anorexic, they're bulimic. But I never really thought about people overeating. I always used to think those are people with no willpower, and you know what, they're like, okay, chastise me if you will, but they're losers with no willpower. That's what I always used to think. But look at this guy's got an issue. This guy's a $90 million contract. And yet, he's going to get paid either way. But he's a guy who can't stop eating. He can't even stay on the field. He's made no effort. If I was him, I'd just bullshit him and be like, listen, it's a long process. I'm a big guy. Okay, so listen, this is what I'm going to do. How about you weigh me every few days and we see the progress? Like lose a pound here and there. At least show something. You don't drop 50 pounds in 2 days, even though I did hear a commercial on WFAN the other day, 40 pounds in 40 days. I swear every goddamn commercial on WFAN is an ultra scam that will put you in the poorhouse. And eventually you won't even be able to live in the poorhouse because you won't have any money. So you won't even have a house. But Sandoval, he's going down a dark road right now. And I heard Kurt Schilling talking about it on WEI. Dennis and Callahan asked him, they said, is he going to play? Will he play? How did they phrase it? They said, is it possible that Pablo Sandoval never plays another game for the Boston Red Sox? And he said it is quite possible. He said he doesn't think it's likely, but it is possible. I find it hard to believe they're going to be cutting him straight up, but what team is going to want him? And what are you going to do with him? I think at a certain point you can't send a guy to the minors when it comes to wages, how much he's earning. So that should be a very interesting situation. The Boston Red Sox, their pitching hasn't been very good, but they're hitting. I mean, that team is doing what they're supposed to do, and that offense is the one, really keeping them afloat, even though they lost today against the Blue Jays. The Yankees, they snapped their losing streak the other day. Alex Rodriguez broke out of his slump, and he is slumping mightily. Right now he's batting .118. He's got 2 home runs, 4 RBIs. I mean, he's got 4 total hits on the season. That's not good. That's very bad. So, but he's around for a while. Remember, he told us he's 2 years in advance. He gave us his notice. Maybe he thought it was 2 years and not 2 weeks. And then somebody told him, they're just like, "Hey, Alex, you're so silly. It's 2 weeks, not 2 years." And then he just said, "Ha, look at me. I don't know what I'm doing."
Yeah, I just said, "Huh."
Exactly. So, all right, but like I said, I'm going to keep the A-Rod bashing to a minimum. So, he's got to improve, but a lot of other people have to improve on that team too, because he's not the only one. The pitching, for the first time, Masahiro Tanaka actually got out of the 7th inning. No other starter has been able to do that. While I agree, once Chapman comes back, they're going to have an amazing 1-2-3 punch, but you got to get guys out of the 6th inning. You really do. You got to get them into the 7th. I mean, these pitching staff need to buckle up. Come on. Be men. Be men, for Christ's sake. So, what else? Right now, baseball's just starting. Bryce Harper, man, that guy is going to look good in pinstripes. The Mets, let's not forget about the Mets. Phil Mushnick, friend of the podcast, wrote an interesting little article about how, Jacob deGrom, and it's very good to hear that his child is okay, because there seemed to be some complications after he was born, but he left the team to, his wife was giving birth, so he left the team, yet Boomer Esiason and Mike Francesa, who killed Daniel Murphy, were silent. Just a little Phil Mushnick knowledge coming your way. I know people love to hate him, but the dude is spot on most of the time. I don't care. Bash me for it. I don't give a shit. But Bryce Harper, right now, in 2016, he is batting .359 with 6 home runs, an OPS of, it's the late April, an OPS of 1.356. He has a career OPS of .911. Think about that for a second. And he's 23 years old, but you know what? This is his 5th season, and he has an OPS of .911. Ooh, he's going to look good in pinstripes. He's got that ultimate, I get douche chills already, because he's an asshole, so he's got a spot on the Yankees, man, and they need some personality, because A-Rod doesn't even have that assholeness before. I used to like it with the assholeness at least, but now he's too positive. You need to get the Fenway, and then they throw at him or something, and then he does something. Maybe it's too early. Maybe we're just expecting too much of him. Bryce Harper's making 20. I don't know, how much is he making? Doesn't say. Last year he made $2 million. Is he up for arbitration soon? He has to be. Anyways, let's move this podcast along as I just mumble to myself. We're almost at about 30 minutes here, so you got to get back to work, right? You got to process that shit the boss asked for. You didn't even respond to the email yet. Bad workers. Bad production equals bad stuff. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was, politics. We're getting closer. We're getting closer to the big day when you choose the leader of the free world. And all the candidates, they're all terrible. I'm considering not even voting. I don't like any of them. You see, Trump was in Pittsburgh the other day. And as all politicians do, and even like rock bands do, when they say, "How you doing, Cleveland?" And maybe they're in Milwaukee, something like that. Because maybe they do that. They do that in movies and TV shows. I don't know if that really happens, but Trump made a faux pas of sorts.
I know a lot about Pennsylvania, and it's great. How's Joe Paterno? We going to bring that back, right? How about that whole deal?
Yeah, good job there, Donald. We were going to hear Donald, and not to bring up Mike Francesa again, but lie. He said that Donald was going to be joining him today, perhaps. So we're still waiting on that, even though Mike's been friends with him for 30 years. And then he also says that he's been on every show in the world, yet he hasn't come on Mike's show, his biggest supporter. And Mike is number one, and he waxes poetic about the Donald all the time. And I guess by the time you hear this, this will have already happened. But I guess there is a rally tonight in Buffalo, and Rex Ryan, of all people. So maybe this will finally bring Rex Ryan and Francesa together. Oh, what a kinship of love, united by their affiliation of Donald Trump. What fucking planet is this? But Rex Ryan will be introducing Donald Trump at a rally. So it should be interesting. But the thing I wanted to say, Hillary says she's just like Beyonce. She carries hot sauce around. First of all, I highly doubt that. And second of all, I carry hot sauce around. So I have it in my car, I have it at my desk, I have it in my kitchen. So I've actually considered getting those Tabasco keychains because everything needs a little hot sauce. Like I mentioned before, I think I spent $75 on hot sauce a few weeks ago. Absolutely insane. I love it. But Hillary, I know this is kind of old actually, but when you do a podcast once a week, this is what happens. So Hillary showing all the New Yorkers how great she is. Because she wore a Yankee hat. Remember, she was a senator. Look, I'm a Yankee fan. Long time. Yeah, I'm sure she was sitting in Chicago, sitting on her daddy's knee and tell her all about the 50s and 60s Yankees, huh? Tell me more, Papa. Tell me about the Mick. I don't know why she talks with an accent like that. But she's riding the subway. Well, she's attempting to ride the subway because she has to, swipe her Metro card. A little bit of an issue. She made the mistake that a lot of foreigners do. I don't mean from another country, foreigners from New York City, and I'm one of them, but I know what to do. You put the Metro card down, you put it against the grain, and you put it through. She was obviously not doing that. It took her about 7, 8, 9 swipes, and finally she got it through. She went on the 4 train, and she could not have looked more awkward. I think as I'm saying all this, did I talk about this last week? I think I may have. But it's just another example of politicians pretending to be normal. It's really, really weird, and I don't know why people are doing it. Like I said, Trump saying what he said in Pittsburgh about Paterno. Stop. Don't try to be common. You're not common. And like I saw the Connecticut's governor the other day, Daniel Malloy, going through the new Amazon. I'm bleeding. Why am I bleeding? I'm bleeding all over my thumb. It's kind of concerning, possibly. Strange. Anyways, Daniel Malloy at the new Amazon building in Connecticut. He's got the hard hat on. He's got the sleeves rolled up, and he's just pointing to certain things like, yeah. That's where they put the stuff. I wish I had audio for that. What could he possibly be asking? Him, but especially more the presidential candidates. They're so not common man. Stop trying to pretend to be. How would anyone watch that and go, you know what, I like that? Did you see Hillary around the subway? She's just like us. Donald Trump knows about Joe Paterno. Oh my God, he used to be a football coach here. I'm voting for him. There's no redeemable qualities when it comes to common man with them. How many people do you know that you could ask for and say, talk to and be like, yeah, I ran for president. No, because it's a very small part of the population. Stop trying to be normal. Just be phony but not that phony. Be phony, though. You know what I mean. And I think that's the podcast for today. This week, we are going to have a guest. Well, we always have a guest on the Red Ticket Blues podcast. You know that. Don't try to pretend like you don't. Don't front. I know that. I told you I was hip. We will have Timothy Sullivan, who is the author of the WFAN book. And that book, of course, Imus, Mike and the Mad Dog, and Doris from Rego Park, the groundbreaking history of WFAN. And, of course, if you've listened to the show, WFAN makes many, many appearances, as it should. So, with all that being said, well, let's think about it. Where can you listen to these shows? You can listen to on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, YouTube, and now Google Play. Thanks for joining us. Follow me on Twitter at BrianBuck13 and at Red Ticket Blues. subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you haven't gone to the rating system on your podcasting venue, well, then you are a uncivilized animal. And I don't know what that has to do with it, but you need to go there and give a 5-star rating. Of course, that's the only rating I'll accept. Anything else will be rejected. So with all that being said, I'm out of here.